Prologue 4, The Generous Thief. It was a party hosting the elite of Canterlot. All the nobility were in attendance, from the lowliest functionary all the way up to Queen Diamond Dust's son, Prince Blueblood. The enchanted globes of light hanging above the grand ballroom reflected off the vast fortune of gems sewn into the various mares' gowns, and so brightly it hurt one's eyes to look too long. It was common practice at the gemstone ball to wear tinted lens over one's eyes. Common practice for all but the servants, who were expected to bask in the glory of their betters. It wasn't unusual at all for one of them to be dazzled by a passing pony and wind up crashing into a table or wall. Some of the less scrupulous nobility would take bets on how long it'd take for one of their lessers to make a fool of themselves. Some took it upon themselves to help things along, intentionally shifting their flanks to hit a passing light globe just right and dazzle one of the servers. One such mare was in the sights of Lady Uppercrust. Well known for her cruelty to her own serving staff, she only employed unicorns and treated them all as poorly as possible. So it came as little surprise to her friends that she'd singled a unicorn out. The servant in question was a young mare, possibly still a teenager. Her coat was a rich ebon black colour, so dark it actually seemed to draw in and dilute the light around her, while her lily-white mane and tail were clearly styled haphazardly and pulled back into a pair of loose ponytails tied off with a bit of green ribbon. She levitated a tray of hors d'oeuvres at her side, offering them to any noble who passed. Her cutie mark of a serving tray drew some chuckles as well. How sad it must be for a pony's destiny to be serving their betters. Small amount of pity aside, no pony thought to warn the hapless mare of her impending embarrassment. As Uppercrust manoeuvred to catch the light just right, she shifted her haunches to reflect it from the diamond adorning her dress right into the mare's eyes. Of the many assembled ponies at the party, only one noticed the serving girl avert her gaze at the last second. He raised an eyebrow as she acted blinded, and stumbled about helplessly. His confusion turned to amusement as the mare tripped, sending her tray flying through the air to land directly atop Uppercrust's head. It was all he could do to avoid applauding her cleverness. No doubt such an act would only get her into more trouble. As it was, the incensed Uppercrust was berating her furiously over her fall and the ruin of her gown. Eventually the noble mare grew tired of belittling the servant and sent her away with a disgusted sniff. The servant bowed low, almost sticking her nose against the ground as she hastily cleaned up her mess and retreated back towards the kitchen. She yelped in alarm as she backed into one of the party-goers. "I'm so sorry, sir. Please forgive me." The stallion in question regarded her with mild amusement through his monocle, wearing a finely tailored suit, his blue mane styled expertly, and a slim moustache giving him a rather debonair look. "My fault entirely, my dear. Accept my apologies." Eyes lowered as she offered a demure smile. "You're too kind, my lord." She had the slightly accented drawl of a pony living in the lower districts, though to his ear it sounded just a tad forced. He fell into step with her as she entered the kitchens. "My lord, this is for the servants." "Well, that means I'm certainly allowed back there, does it not? This is my kitchen, after all." The mare's eyes widened in alarm. "Oh, sweet Celestia, I'm so sorry, my lord." Chuckling warmly, he shook his head. "Nothing to apologise for." Glancing around to ensure they were alone, his smile turned playful. "You handled Uppercrust quite well out there, I must say." Eyes widening in alarm, she looked away hastily. "I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, my lord." "Ah, of course not." He took a moment to study her more closely. She was certainly beautiful, if a bit on the unpolished side. Her coat was healthy and glossy, though slightly unkempt here and there. Similar to her mane, The hair shined healthily, even if it was in a haphazard ponytail. "Well, you seem to be well enough. I should allow you to return to work." Bowing her head politely, she waited patiently for him to leave. Once he was gone, she wove her way through the kitchen, refilling her tray. "Did you get it?" "Huh. Of course I did. The vault's in the basement, of course. Normally there are guards all over it, but they've all been reassigned for the party. You're still going to have to get by one stationed at the stairs, though." The serving mare made her way back out to the party, calmly offering the guests her tray as she continued her mental conversation. "Have anything on him? Just a sec. Okay, I got him. Let's see. Ugh, earth ponies with big flanks." One or two guests noted the mare rolling her eyes in disgust with confused looks on their faces. She recovered quickly and smiled politely. "Apologies. One of the cooks was getting a bit fresh." "I can work with that. What else?" "Standard trap placement. Looks like we got nets, alarms, and sleeping darts. Nothing fatal if you screw up at the least." Nodding politely to the guest helping herself from her tray, the mare moved along, eyes roaming about the ballroom until she spotted a bored-looking stallion standing around before a grand staircase outside the room. "Your confidence in my abilities is overwhelming. Is that it?" "Vault's got a combination lock. I'll have it for you before you get there." Setting her empty tray aside, the mare ducked into the coat room. "Good enough. Talk to you soon. I have work to do." Her horn glimmered with a soft baby blue hue as the ribbon around her mane unwound itself. Once it became free, her coal-black coat shifted to the snowy hue her mane had been, while her mane and tail became a rich royal purple colour. Finely crafted black leathers covered much of her body, a jewelled rapier shimmering into view on the side, while a matching dagger appeared on the other. Reactivating the enchantment on her ribbon of disguise, she shivered as the magic flowed over her body again. Lacking a mirror, she had to eyeball herself manually, but she liked what she saw. A pale pink coat with a thick, curly mane of blonde hair. The ribbon now a small, jewelled pin. Unbinding her tail, she gave it a sharp flick, allowing it to fluff out like her mane. A quick tap at her forehead revealed no horn, and she didn't need to look to know that her flanks had been generously increased in size. Her armour had been replaced with a flashy gem-studded gown. Sighing in disgust at all things male, she slipped from the coat room towards the stairs. She caught the guard's attention immediately, and it was all she could do to not break into a delighted fit of giggles. "Well, hello, handsome." The young earth pony stallion's eyes widened as this vision of loveliness addressed him. Hi." Tittering a little laugh, the mare smiled coyly. "What's a good-looking stallion like yourself doing out here, all alone?" She dropped her tone to a more husky quality at the end. The hapless guard's eyes widened further as he tried to stammer a reply. Her smile never fading, she paced past him, adding some extra sway to her hips as she ran her tail under his chin. "Wouldn't you rather have some company?" The meaningful way she said company could only mean one thing, and standing around in front of the stairs to the basement was really boring to begin with. Barely giving his post a second glance, he followed after the gorgeous mare as she slipped into one of the rooms off the main hall. If any pony in the party heard the dull thud of an unconscious body hitting the floor, it went unnoticed. The mare casually slipped from the room and glided gracefully down the stairs, her hooves barely making a sound. "You sure have a way with the stallions, Jewel." The mare, Jewel, smiled at the compliment even if her partner couldn't see it. "Why, thank you, darling. But honestly, they make it so easy. It's certainly unfair with you about picking their brains for just the right appearance." "Ha, fair enough. The vault is at the end of the basement hall. Brace yourself. I'm not going to give you a picture of the trap layout. Jewel often found her psionic partner utterly invaluable, but one thing she couldn't stand were the mysterious mare's little psychic share sessions. Leaning up against the wall for support, she was rocked back on her greatly enhanced flanks as the mental image unfolded in her mind. Trying to ignore the dull ache in her brain, she focused on the mental picture as much as possible, picking out various traps that lay in wait for her. I have it. Stop. All at once the link was severed, and Jewel was alone in her head once more. Sorry, I know you hate it, but it's the quickest way. Shaking her head at her partner's apology, Jewel smiled faintly again. No need to apologise. Your assistance is invaluable as always. Now give me a moment, I need to concentrate. The scion fell silent as Jewel stepped carefully into the basement corridor. With infinite care she picked her way across the floor, nimbly stepping around the various pressure plates that lay in wait for her. It was almost too easy to cross the floor and make it to the sizable vault door. Combination? 16 right, 83 left, 47 right. Her unseen horn shimmered as she magically gripped the combination wheel. Swiftly spinning it to the proper numbers, the vault opened with a satisfying ka-chunk. Jewel took hold of the door in her magic gently easing it open in case of squeaky hinges. Hearing no telling sounds, she swung it open with more force, slipping inside and shutting the door most of the way behind herself. I'm in. Great. I don't think any ponies noticed the missing guard yet, but just in case, let's wrap this up quick. You have the crystal the boss gave you, right? Nodding slowly, Jewel removed her ribbon and tucked it away in a pouch on her armour. Drawing out a small golden stone, she rapped it gently on the floor, causing it to burst into a bright radiant light, illuminating the vault. A little squeal worked its way through her mouth as she took in the veritable mountains of jewels and golden bits. Oh, Sifter! If only you could see it! Jewel felt a little tingle in her head, then in her eyes. Sweet Celestia, look at all that loot! Not commenting on her partner's mental intrusion, Jewel pulled a small patch of what appeared to be a black fabric from another pouch. Rapidly unfolding it into a much larger size, she tossed the portable whole to the floor and began levitating huge heaps of gold and gems into the magical container. Am I looking for anything specific? Nope, this is just a cash grab, so cram whatever you can into that magic hole of yours and let's get gone. Rolling her eyes, Jewel resumed her looting. Must you make it sound so filthy? Ha, I guess I did. Wasn't even trying. I'm pretty awesome like that, huh? Eyeing her portable hole and finding it nearly full, while the vault had barely a dent in its massive amount of coin, Jewel nodded in satisfaction and began folding the hole up once more. That's one way of putting it. Jewel whirled around, eyes wide with alarm as the vault door swung open fully. The lord of the manor himself was standing there eyeing her carefully. Ah, Miss Rarity. I thought that was you upstairs, but you looked a little more rough and tumble than I recalled. Jewel, what is it? What's happening? I've been discovered. Get out. I'll meet you at the rendezvous. Rarity smiled pleasantly, bowing low. Lord Fancy Pants, it's a pleasure to see you again, circumstances aside. Indeed. The stallion stood firmly blocking the exit. You're a criminal now, are you? Rarity smiled wryly. I've been a criminal for quite some time, my lord. A look of sadness passed over the noble stallion's face. Yes, I suppose you have, haven't you? He appeared to be unarmed, but that didn't mean he wasn't dangerous. It would be more unusual for a unicorn as wealthy as Fancy Pants to not have some sort of magical charms or protections than if he did. How did you see through my disguise? Chuckling softly, he levitated his monocle a bit closer. A truth-seeing enchantment. Detects magic, lies, and poison as well. Useful for the occasional less than scrupulous business partner, or serving filly as the case may be. Quite clever though, entering as one of the servants. Ponies so rarely pay attention to them, and I believe that little tickle in the back of my head was a psionic. I trust my guard isn't too greatly hurt. Rarity's smile never faded as she shook her head. He'll have a bit of a headache when he comes to. But no, I'm a thief, not a killer. The fact that you're any sort of criminal breaks my heart. It would break your father's heart too. Rarity's smile vanished in an instant, and her eyes hardened. Don't speak to me of what my father would or wouldn't have felt, my lord. Obviously neither of us knew him as well as we thought, or I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now. A situation entirely of your own making, my dear. Don't you think I know that? I know what I've done, and I'd do it again 100 times over. No matter what happens to me, all that matters is she's kept safe. Fancy Pants sighed softly. It's such a shame what life has forced you to become. You could have been some pony special, my dear. Mares like yourself are few and far between. If you'd been allowed to keep your title, the things you could have accomplished. Some of the venom left Rarity's voice. Yes, well, what's past is past, my lord. I don't regret my actions for a second. After a moment of studying the mare silently, Fancy Pants smoothly stepped aside. Rarity stared at him incredulously for a moment before darting past him and into the corridor beyond. I wish there was more I could do for you and her ladyship than just give some coin. Rarity paused at his words, casting an eye toward him. Thank you. I won't forget this. And then she was gone. Sifter paced anxiously outside the Hoof and Wing Tavern in Canterlot slums. He'd been waiting nearly an hour for Jewel to show, and was starting to think she'd been captured. Slitted yellow eyes darted about nervously, as he constantly scanned the surface thoughts of any pony passing by. Goodness, you look ready to burst out of your skin. Yah! Large bat-like wings unfurled from his sides at the sudden voice from behind. He scowled as a smirking Rarity approached from the shadows. Jewel, you scared me half to death. He could never stay mad at the gorgeous mare, though. Her own slate-grey coat was a near mirror to his, though her vivid green eyes and shimmering indigo mane made it hard to stay mad at her. She was the most gorgeous pony he'd ever laid eyes on, even if she was a unicorn and not a fellow night pony. Laughter danced in her eyes as Rarity settled beside her partner. I couldn't resist. He always gets so nervous after a job. The stallion gave an indignant huff. How'd you get away? My feminine wiles, of course. Even noble lords dropped their guard around such a beautiful mare. Do you want your cut now, or wait until Shadow's taken his portion? The night pony stallion shifted at the mention of their guild leader. I'll wait. I feel better when he gives me my pay himself. Rolling her eyes at his timidity, Rarity shrugged. Very well. A pleasure working with you as always, Sifter. I'll see you around, I'm sure. Turning to go, she stopped as he called out again. Wait, you maybe want to get a drink in the tavern with me, or something? Rarity paused and looked back at him, clearly considering. Another night, Sifter. I have some pony waiting for me at home. If his face could fall any further, it had hit the cobblestones at his hooves. Suppressing a laugh, she smiled warmly. My little sister. She worries if I'm out too late on a work night. Ask me again when we're not on the job. Maybe I'll say yes then. Maybe? Flashing a coy smile, she gave all the stones she stepped into the shadows, melting away into the night. Maybe. Rarity made her way through the twisting back alleys of the slums towards the ramshackle hovel that served as home. Situated between several similar shacks, it was neither unique, interesting, or spectacular, just the way she wanted it. Grunting as she heaved against the ever-stubborn door, Rarity slammed it shut behind herself. I'm home! A tiny ball of filly-shaped energy came charging from the pile of blankets that served as their bed. "Hiya, Jewel. Did you get lots of good loot?" "Hello, Sugar Cube. I may have gotten some good loot. Would you like to see?" Laughter danced in the older unicorn's eyes as she gazed down at her little sister. At home, the little filly was allowed to go without her own coat-altering ribbon. She was a slightly more off-white than her sister, with a mop of pale lilac and pink curls dancing merrily around her head. No matter how bad their situation got, her bright green eyes never lost their zest for life. Sweetie Belle giggled like she always did when they used their fake names with each other. Let me see. Rarity delicately unlaced her leathers, hanging them by the door, unwinding her ribbon and laying it with them, allowing her true shape to emerge. "All right, but don't make too much noise. It's late and the neighbours might be sleeping." Sweetie rolled her eyes towards the wall to the right, where the loud sounds of two ponies enjoying one another's company was clearly heard. "They're doing something, all right." Rarity's eyes widened. "Honestly, where you pick up such manners?" Another eye roll was the little filly's response. "Gee, I wonder. It's almost like we've been living in the slums for the last 3 years." Giving her sister a slight cuff on the back of her head, Rarity levitated her portable hole out of her armour. "Don't get smart with me, little miss." Rubbing the back of her head sullenly, Sweetie Belle pouted most spectacularly. That is until Rarity unfolded the hole, revealing the small fortune in gold and jewels within. "Wow! There's so much. Do you think—" Rarity frowned. "No, sugar. We can't leave the slums. It's too dangerous in the upper districts for us. There are guards everywhere." Another little huff was the younger's response. Her pout was fading quickly as her sister allowed her to clamber in the hole and rummage through their ill-gotten gains. "Can we at least have a little fun with some of it?" "A little fun, Sugar Cube." Rarity moved to the edge of the hole, starting to levitate her haul out and onto the floor of their home. Sifter might be terrified of their guild master, but she was anything but. The rakish stallion had been more than kind to she and her sister, and she owed him more than she'd ever be able to repay. While the life of a criminal wasn't what she'd planned for herself down the line, she was doing what she had to for the sake of her sister. "So how much is ours?" Rarity raised her brow. "Ours? I didn't see you sneaking into Lord Fancy Pants's vault and making off with his riches. You know Light Hooves offered to train me again." All amusement fled the older pony's face. "Absolutely not. You're not a thief, Sweetie Belle. You're not going to run about like those other ragamuffins and pickpockets." Sweetie frowned. Her sister only used her real name when she was really upset. Sorry, Jewel. I just want to help." Rarity's face softened at that. I know. I just don't want you getting mixed up in my work is all." "But it sounds so fun, meeting dark, mysterious stallions, charming the bits out of noble ponies, sneaking into vaults and picking lots, and breaking traps." "I'm sure to a young pony it sounds all fun and exciting, but I assure you it's anything but. You do know what will happen to me if I'm caught, don't you?" Sweetie scoffed. "No pony's going to catch you. You're the best thief in Canterlot." Rarity couldn't hide a proud little smile. "I am, aren't I? Still, it's not just me. Sifter is an excellent partner." "Just a partner?" Rarity's eyes widened again. "Honestly, what has gotten into you tonight?" Sweetie Belle giggled delightedly at her sister's discomfort, trotting back to their bed and squirming beneath the blankets. "Nothing." Shaking her head at the unpredictable little filly's behaviour, Rarity began meticulously counting the coin. She separated the gems from the bits, easily being able to appraise the precious stones by eye. Accounting for Sifter's cut and their boss's take, She set 50 bits aside for herself, and one particularly choice ruby for her personal collection. She was handing over an enormous sum of money to the guild, but after operating fees, equipment, and the less than small protection fee she paid for the guild to ensure her anonymity, it was evened out in her opinion. Every coin was well spent. Gently easing a large basin she and Sweetie Belle used for a bathtub to the side, she levitated a piece of tan-coloured cloth from the floor. The colour blended perfectly with the floor of their hovel and was nearly impossible to detect if you didn't know it was there. Eyes shining in the small trove of gold and gems within their little cubby, Rarity added her take from the evening to the pile. "Things will get better soon, Sweetie Belle, I promise." "Alright, Sugar Cube, I need to go see Shadow Stalker this morning. I trust you can keep out of trouble while I'm gone?" Sweetie Belle beamed innocently up at her sister. "Uh-huh." "Good. If you do go out, make sure you wear your ribbon." The filly rushed to the small sack containing her personal belongings, fishing out the length of red ribbon and tying it in her tail. She smiled toothily as her coat became ebon black and her mane and tail a brilliant crimson. She blinked up at her sister with blazing golden eyes. "Very intimidating. Behave yourself today. I shan't be gone long." "Yes, Jewel." Rarity smiled and kissed her sister atop the head before slipping out into the pre-dawn Canterlot morning. She opted for her usual Jewel look. The grey coat and perfectly straight indigo mane was a look she'd grown rather fond of over the last few years. If she'd been paying more attention to the happenings behind her, she'd have noticed her little sister slipping off down another alley to meet the very group of pickpockets she'd been ordered to keep away from. Content that all was right with her world, as things could be, the professional thief made her way through the winding alleys of the Canterlot slums. A familiar sight brought a frown to her face, however. A rail-thin Pegasus colt sitting on a street corner with a badly dented metal cup set before him. Sighing softly, she veered from her course towards the colt. "Again, featherweight?" The little colt flashed her a wan smile. "Mom and Pop have been gone longer than usual this time, Miss Jewel. They always come back eventually." Rarity sighed. "Yes, eventually." Levitating a hefty sum from her portable hole, tucked away in her leathers, she dropped enough coin in the little cup to nearly fill it. "Make it last, you hear me?" Smiling ear to ear now, he nodded rapidly. "Yes, ma'am, I will." "Good. Off you go. Scoot." She watched him charge away, no doubt to the sweet shop to buy his own body weight in candy. Shaking her head at the colt's antics, she continued on her way. The guild house was situated almost in the very centre of the slums. Every pony knew what it was, and what those who worked within really got up to. And every pony turned a blind eye to it. Shadow Stalker kept Canterlot safe in his own way. Crime wasn't terribly rampant, and he kept his people under tight control. Even the guard ignored his members coming and going, for the most part. Rarity felt her hackless rise at the sight of the morning guard. She didn't like Velvet Touch, and Velvet Touch certainly didn't like her. Frankly, Rarity found the purple-coated Pegasus to be something of a tramp, while Rarity herself wasn't above using her feminine wiles on a job. Velvet was known to go all the way, with a mark, before robbing them. Turning up her nose, she pointedly stalked past the smirking mare, making her way into the warehouse. She was well recognised by any pony in the guild, and the secret hatch leading to the proper guild house was opened without delay for her. Nodding her thanks to the burly earth pony standing guard inside, she descended the building beneath the building. Rogues, burglars, pickpockets, and street toughs all practiced their art down here. Shadow's only rule when pulling a job was that no pony dies, something Rarity found meshed quite well with her already stretched moralities. A few familiar faces called a greeting or offered a friendly nod, which Rarity returned. 3 years ago she'd have never imagined herself rubbing elbows with common criminals. Now, however, she had a hard time picturing her life without the rakish scoundrels. Sure, they were all criminals, but that didn't make them bad ponies. She was ushered into her guildmaster's office with all haste. The door shut gently behind her as she stepped into the stallion's personal chamber. Most pictured a thieves' guild as some sort of dark hole in the ground, littered with torture devices and mounds of ill-gotten gains. The reality was quite the opposite. It was a very comfortable building, Shadowstalker's office being no exception. A large fireplace blazed with a magical smokeless fire, providing warmth and illumination. The stallion himself was seated behind his desk, flipping through some paperwork at his hooves. Atop his head was perched a rather stylish, wide-brimmed hat, with a sizable feather situated in the band of red ribbon around the top. His black leather armour was nearly identical to her own, though he complemented it with a long cloak that seemed to oscillate between all the colours of the spectrum when it caught the light just right. Which tribe he actually belonged to was a subject of some debate, as no pony ever saw his head or back unadorned. Upon his face he wore a finely embroidered, jewelled eye patch, which had the habit of switching from eye to eye when one looked away. It presently covered his right eye, and the left raised to meet her gaze. "Jewel, my best and brightest operative," Sifter told me. "Things got a little dicey last night. I wasn't worried for a second, however. You haven't failed me yet." Rarity smiled at the praise. "You're too kind, sir. It was nothing I couldn't handle. I just had to get a little rough with a gentle colt." "Ha ha! Poor fellow had no idea what he was getting into, I'm sure. How's that sister of yours? Keeping out of trouble?" Rarity smirked as she retrieved the portable hole given to her by the very stallion she was speaking with. "As if you don't keep close tabs on her comings and goings." "Too true. You know you're both more than welcome in the guild house. We certainly have the room. It'd be more comfortable than that filthy shack of yours." Rarity's smile faded as she unfolded the hole. "I'd like nothing more than to accept the offer, Shadow, but you know why I can't. All it would take is one mistake, and, well, we are worth a considerable amount of bits after all." "Alas, I'd like to say our little family of thieves would never betray one of their own, but there's always some pony who gets a touch too greedy for their own good." He rose from his desk, coming around to stand before Rarity. "Well, let's see the take." Nodding, she stepped back and began to levitate the coin and gems from the magical container. Shadowstalker gave a low whistle as she cleaned the hole out. "Already taken your cut?" "I have. Sifter wanted to wait for you to pay him personally, of course." "Of course. Poor fellow's so jittery around me, probably because he can't peek into my head like he does every pony else." "Well, excellent work as always, my dear. In fact, I think this deserves a little something extra." Rarity frowned gently. "Not at all, sir." "Bah!" The stallion waved a hoof imperiously. The door to his office swung open, admitting a pair of his underlings, who went about gathering the currency and making off with it, either to the vault or to the fence. Rarity didn't know or care. "I reward my operatives who do good work, and you do good work." Shadowstalker himself retrieved a long, elegantly heeled pair of black leather boots from somewhere behind his desk, the matching pair to your armour. Rarity suppressed a squeal at the expertly crafted hoofwear. "Shadow, they're gorgeous!" All reservations tossed aside, she hastily kicked off her normal boots and slipped the new pair on, raising an eyebrow at the magical tingle that accompanied the action. "They match to your armour in all aspects. Just like the armour helps you blend into the shadows a bit better, these will help quiet your step." Giving her hind leg an experimental stomp, she smiled approvingly as her hoof barely made a sound. "Well, This will certainly make me more effective at my work. Speaking of work, I have a client who's asked for you personally. Rarity frowned at that. I don't know if it's a good thing that I'm getting renowned enough to be known, Shadow Stalker. Ah, well, she's a bit of a personal friend. We chat regularly, and you've come up in conversation now and again. I assure you she's the sort of mare who'd never breathe a word about goings-on to any pony. The mare regarded him curiously now. Well, what's this oh-so-mysterious job? Shadow beckoned for her to sit, which she did. He unrolled a sheaf of paper, spreading it across his desk. Rarity leaned forward to clearly see the revealed map better. You're going here. It's a town called Ponyville. Now Rarity frowned harder. That's more than a short walk from Canterlot, Shadow. I can't leave my sister. Ah, well, not to worry. I already thought of that. The dapper stallion rolled the map up. It just so happens they're having their annual summer sun celebration in Ponyville in 3 days. Little Sugar Cube can enjoy the festivities while you and Sifter see to the job. It's the perfect time, really. Every pony will be so busy with their festival, they won't notice a couple more strangers coming into town just to partake. Rarity's frown didn't fade. I don't know, Shadow. The guildmaster nodded slowly. I understand. The reward is something of a particular interest to you, however. My friend is quite the accomplished wizardess, and is willing to give you and Sweetie Belle new identities. Magical transmutations that will be completely undetectable by any pony save she herself. She'll arrange new identities for you, and see to it that you'll settle comfortably any place you like. Rarity's eyes widened at the implications. What am I to steal? That's the tricky part. Beneath Ponyville lays a series of catacombs. Buried deep within them is a sort of vault. The door is inlaid with many precious stones. The client wants you to pluck as many of the stones from the door as you can. Any more than one are yours to keep. So obviously I'd prefer you get a generous amount of them, he finished with a wink. Rarity sat silently, considering all she'd been told. I'll do it. Splendid. I'll make the travel arrangements. You'd just enjoy some quality time with that little scamp of a filly. I'll work out most of the details with Sifter, and he can brief you on the way. Sound good? The mare nodded. It does. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. She didn't see his look darken as the door closed behind her. That's what I'm afraid of. Rarity made it through the guild and outside quickly, excitement urging her hooves to speed across the alleys towards home. One more job. One last job, and she could have a real life with Sweetie Belle. Give her a proper home. Maybe even send her to school, or anything she wanted, really. A shadow passed overhead and caused her to come to a quick halt, as Velvet Touch landed in front of her. Another big job? Rarity sniffed daintily as she moved to go around the mare. None of your concern. Velvet shifted to block her passage. I suppose not, though something has been bothering me lately. Rarity tilted her head, feigning sympathy. They make all sorts of wonderful creams and ointments for the sort of bothers you have no doubt picked up, Velvet. The older mare chuckled mirthlessly. Witty as always, Rarity, but no. See, I've been thinking, you and that sister of yours turned up, what, 3 years ago? Almost to the day, isn't it? Rarity's look hardened. And? Well, I'm not the best student of history, but I vaguely recall that Princess Sweetie Belle's lunatic half-sister up and abducted her 3 years ago, then went into hiding, and neither have been heard from since. Not to mention those upper-class accents you both have, darling. I suggest you stop this line of thinking, Velvet. It's not doing any pony any good. Velvet ignored the steel in the other mare's voice. You think you're oh so clever, don't you, swooping in here and charming your way to the top? Well, I've got news for you, Rarity. The game's over. Unless you can come up with a very good reason for me not to report you and collect that huge bounty, your life's about to get a lot more complicated. Rarity met Velvet's Rarity's eyes, neither backing down an inch. Finally Rarity smiled and eased back. I have a very good reason, as a matter of fact. Oh? Well, this I'd like to... Velvet's voice was cut off as Rarity's dagger flew from its sheath, embedding itself in her neck. The Pegasus's eyes were wide as she spread her wings, preparing to take flight, only for Rarity still magically gripping her dagger to wrench the blade free while smoothly stepping out of the way of the sudden spurt of blood. With nothing to keep her blood from pumping freely onto the street, Velvet Touch quickly lost the strength to even attempt flying, and fell heavily to the ground. She looked up at Rarity pleadingly, only to be met with an icy gaze in return. "You're dead, darling. There can't possibly be a better reason than that." Calmly stepping over the still mare's body, Rarity continued on her way. She really was excited to tell Sweetie Belle about the coming festival. "You're insane, Celestia. Absolutely insane. I want a better explanation than 'it's what has to happen' or 'I'll call off this whole nonsense heist.'" Celestia sat in Shadowstalker's office, calmly gazing into the fire. "She's returning one way or the other, my friend. Nothing we can do can prevent that." "Maybe so, but why in Tartarus would you want to hasten it?" The towering mare was quiet for a time. "Honestly, what sort of name is Shadowstalker? Did you make a list of the most cliched thief names imaginable? Cobalt suits you much better." The stallion blinked, momentarily taken aback at the abrupt shift in conversation. "Oh no, that might work on some of the others, but you can't play your stupid games with me. Tell me what this is about. I mean it." "If Nightmare Moon is allowed to return at her own pace, it will be at full strength. If, however, her cell is opened early, she certainly won't ignore the opportunity for freedom. She'll emerge not quite at her full power." Shadow nodded. "And then we'll strike her down once and for all?" Celestia frowned gently. "Perhaps so. It seems you've really taken an interest in Rarity and her situation. You've been very generous to those two." The Guildmaster shrugged indifferently. "No more than any of my other operatives." I don't seem to recall you were very close with Queen Crystalline. All the way up until she married the king, of course. Then you two mysteriously stopped speaking with one another." Shadow's eyes narrowed. "And? Well, the rumour is the Queen was pregnant before she was wed. Can you imagine?" It would be quite the scandal if it turned out to be true." Celestia smiled. "Wouldn't it just? Be safe, my friend. I should be going." "Wait! Have you spoken with Golden lately?" Celestia paused in the midst of her teleportation spell. "We have tea together every week. Why do you ask?" The stallion's dark coat did an excellent job hiding his faint blush. "No reason." He waited until he was sure Celestia was gone before sliding open a drawer and retrieving a small crystal. Contained within was the image of 6 ponies, 2 unicorn mares, one lily white with a bright pink mane, the other a rich deep blue with a bright blue mane to match her sister. A sternly glaring Pegasus stallion with a pastel coat and pink mane was shooting a dirty look at the inky-coated earth pony stallion beside him. The earth pony mare with the rich green coat and silken white braids sat almost touching flanks with her fellow tribesmen, while a Pegasus mare with a white coat and golden mane looked on smiling. Sighing softly, she gazed down at the magically captured moment. Happier times. Rarity. True neutral. Aristocrat 2. Rogue 4. Strength 13, Dexterity 16, Constitution 12, Intelligence 15, Wisdom 12, Charisma 18. Special equipment: Shadowed leather armor +2, Boots of Move Silently, Ribbon of Alter Self. Sweetie Belle, Neutral Good, Rogue 1. Strength 8, Dexterity 13, Constitution 10, Intelligence 14, Wisdom 10, Charisma 16. Author's note: The Celestia Cake spell scene was my favourite one until Stone Cold Killer Rarity. Now that's my favourite moment so far.